back. I hope you're having a good day. Today I'm going to give you an update on all three of my little cuttings. This first one here, I'm going to do no work to. This was about 3 or 4 foot tall just about 3 weeks ago. I cut it back hard, just really kind of basically just showing it off to start off with, just one of the first ones or whatever. You can see all the bright green growth is new growth, and I thought I'd finally have a good opportunity to really show what we mean when we talk about dieback on these things. And what we mean is when you prune it, it won't get a bud out of here. It'll go down to the last node. And then this hasn't started really the process yet, but you can see the top is a little bit black. Eventually, this node, will become the new branch, and this piece here will just die back, and it'll die back to the live piece, and you just break it off. But that's a good example of what dieback looks like. Here's another one. And again, that's where I pruned it. It's going to start growing out of here. You can see a little bit of live stuff coming out of there and everything. And then that'll become the new branch, and it'll die back to there. Okay, and then go back to lower it. And so that's the first cutting. Don't really have any special plans for it yet. Haven't wired it yet. Kind of hard with the thorns. I know people say to take the thorns off. I think it adds character to the tree, but right now I'm just happy. It's a 1.5 year old cutting. Looks pretty good for just a 1.5 year old. Not super thick yet, just about maybe finger size. Alright, and here is the other cutting. It's about the same age as that other one. The one I just had in here, actually it is the exact same age as the other one. It was a little bigger when I first took it, and this one, the other one, I let grow unchecked for probably 6 months, cut it way back, and then I let it grow unchecked again for about 6 months, and then I cut it way back, and now just over the last 6 months or so, I've been cutting it regularly. This one, I started out by cutting the top regularly and never cutting this branch or this branch. Eventually I had to cut this one. As you can see, I even had to widen this shot out so much that I got like part of the wall in there behind my little fake background and everything. But I had to cut this one back. Just simply it was getting so long on that side, it was constantly falling over. This side was barely growing at all. And plus this branch was lower. So I wanted to try to get the thickness a little more on the bottom. The more and more I kind of go with it, I was thinking I was going to keep these as sacrifices, but I think I'm just going to kind of continually prune up here, and I think I might be able to get like a really kind of a flat top here, but with 2 really big, majestic looking branches on the side. And if I wind up with like a flat top up here and these 2 just look out of place, I'll either air layer or take a cutting. This one's already getting some ramification along the sacrifice branch or whatever, so I'll probably want to try to save them. Do it like right at, I think the best time for air layering and stuff for me is March and April, so do it like right during the best time of the year and everything. This guy, I wasn't really planning on doing all that much, but since I got it in here, these 2 branches are growing right side by side, and the one's going straight up, the other one's off to the side there, so I should be able to wire that one down. So I'll go ahead and just take out the other one. They were growing like right next to each other, almost out of the same node. And then this guy here, this one just sprouted, and it's really young, coming out of a pretty thick spot there. Again, helping with a little taper. This one, now well you guys can see, it actually has, like I pruned it, and it died back to here, and there's a little small branch coming out there. This one kind of shot out of the side, the very long spot here with no leaves coming off of it. It would almost make me want to just cut it all the way back again, but then I'd have a scar there. So I'm going to leave it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it down to the last branch that's pointing outwards and that isn't growing in towards the tree or whatever. And that would be this one, the last leaf that's pointing outwards. And again, to account for dieback, I'm going to go ahead and cut it all the way up to the next node in the hoping that at least saves that one and grows out that way instead of in towards the tree. But that's all I'm going to do with that guy. The last one I'm going to bring in, I'm going to do a lot of work too. All right, and then we've got the last of the cuttings here. This one was hard to get in to get a good shot with, but haven't touched this one for a while. It's actually been 3 months. I pruned and repotted it and haven't done anything to it since. So there's a little lime green kind of in here. Just a couple little tufts of it, but again, that's the new growth at the end is always lime green, and then everything else turns green as it gets older. And it's been 3 months since I touched it, so I've just been letting it go unchecked. Now, one thing I did not notice, I mean, first off, I know that this is not going to follow any traditional rules. This actually wasn't, I took this as an air layer a little bit after those other 2 cuttings, but the air layer failed, and maybe when I'm done pruning you'll be able to see, but right about this big was the size of the old air layer with the old branches in there and everything. They've all died off, and I thought that it was, I aborted my mission with the air layer, in other words, and I just cut it off. But something told me that there was just a slight chance there wasn't any roots coming out of the air layer at all, but I don't know what it was that gave me the idea that it might have a little life left in it. And I just shoved it into a little pot full of potting soil, and then all of a sudden, a month or so later, I see all this growth coming out of it. Of course, none of it came out of the dead wood, it all came out of the sides and everything, so I got this kind of wild guy here. But somehow or another, this branch wound up wrapping all the way around it there, and I don't know if you can kind of see, it's just crossing right in front. And as much as we want movement, the only way I'd want that much movement if I was going to chop everything else off and make this some kind of a big curly Q literally or something. So I'm just going to cut that right there. So it's got a leaf coming out that way. Hopefully it just dies back to there and comes out that way. It's a little small branch coming right off the bottom. I'll leave any life I can. See how thick that was in just that 30 days. But everything else, I may do some selective pruning in a minute, but I'm going to kind of take everything down to around this height here, trying to directionally prune so that it'll grow out, and then just kind of see if there's anything in there I really want to get rid of or make a little shorter than the rest. I always cut right below the last node that I want to keep. So this one, again, leaf pointing out this way. I leave plenty of room. Should sprout a new branch right out of that node on the leaf there. The node is where the leaf comes out, and that'll be the new branch, and hopefully it comes this way rather than growing back into the tree. This one has a long spot with no branches on it, just where it kind of comes out to get light. But there's a leaf right here pointing directly at me, and so I don't really want that much of a length in there of just trunk. So I'll just pop that off right to there. And then let's see. This one already has 2 branches. I want to take advantage of that as much as I can. So if I cut this one here, I've got that branch coming out that way. And right at that same spot, that branch is going out, or that leaf is actually heading that way. I don't really want that. So I'll cut that off to there. It won't be even right away, but I don't really want... Actually, I'll just go ahead and do that. Hopefully, maybe that'll do it. There's a chance that when it sprouts, it's not always going to go exactly where the leaf is. It might come out there and maybe go that way. If it winds up coming back in, I'll just have to let it kind of grow and wait till it gets some nodes pointing the way I want it to. Cut them there. That's actually coming off. I'm going to go ahead and cut that long piece all the way off and just see what happens. I might have to eliminate a big piece there, but here's a leaf coming there. There's actually a new little growth there. Seems to be some really strong growth coming out of that. It's coming right out of the base of the trunk. Seems to be some really good growth coming off of it, and that's how that one branch wrapped all the way around it. It is making for some, looks like it's just like really growing out there, like searching for light. I've got it out there and full Florida sun. It shouldn't have a problem getting enough sun. Let me take, think about these two longer ones here too. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not even going to concern myself with dieback on that one. I'm just going to cut it there. For shape, there's no nodes below there. Either it just dies back all the way to the branch or not. And then I think I might do the same thing with this one, although each one of these thorns is basically a node. I've seen them sprout right at a thorn. So I got a thorn coming out that way. I'll go ahead and take that one off there. This little guy here is kind of new popping out there. Well, it's way out here on the edge. It's going in the right direction, but it kind of is unbalancing the tree just a bit. I mean, it's a really unbalanced tree as it is, but... Alright, so now I got it back in there for a close-up. That almost looks like... I told you there's dead wood in there. That almost looks dead popping up out of there like that. Not that I'm trying to show it or anything, but looks like it's popping up out of there way too far. But this thing definitely has surprised me with its resiliency, in that it was the given up air layer. Really hard to see. Maybe next spring I'll defoliate the rest of it so you can kind of see this dead piece in there. That all this piece right here is a dead piece. This has a really big, strong branch coming off that way, almost causing the whole tree to kind of go that way. There's also a branch coming right out of the base here, and right out of the base here. I'm wondering, so usually these trees are pretty apical where they try to grow straight up. I'm wondering if it's giving up on the apex, on the old apex. That's where that piece was there. And I say like dead-ish looking stuff, and everything else is stretching out for the light. And there's the sprouts coming out of the dead piece of the trunk there. So, I don't know. As long as it stays alive, I figure whatever, usually a tropical will kind of, if it gets a dead part that it gives up on, it'll kind of outgrow it and semi-reject it. Although I do see there are some rain trees that have dead wood showing. This really, I say dead wood, it's going to be, by the time this tree gets mature, it's going to be too small to really be considered deadwood. It'll just be a dead twig. So I don't really want to surgically remove it yet or whatever, but there I'm just breaking off some of the brittle pieces on the end because they're all drying out. They're not going to make it. All right, after taking one last look at it here, I did decide I've got this really strong one coming out of that side, and I can tell. I can't show you because it's been too recent since this has been repotted, but if I could show it up, I could tell that this is actually getting pretty good nabari because of these sprouts on the bottom. But I got this one and then this one, and they're kind of crossing each other depending on what angle you look at. If you look at that angle, they're really crossing each other. And I'm thinking one of them's got to go. This one only has the little bit of foliage on the top. This one has some leaves down here, so it's got more live nodes. It's a little out of place, but I think I'm going to cut the smaller one off. It's up a little bit higher, and the lower one seems to be contributing to the nabari a little bit better than that upper one. So let's see if you guys can kind of see where it's getting a little bit of a spread there. But that stump is watering out pretty well with all this growth on the bottom. So I'm going to take out the upper one. And they do say that these things can die back into the trunk a little bit. I'll leave a little nub. It'll be annoying for a while, but that'll eventually just kind of pluck off there. So there's the actual finished product. I looked at this too and decided that could go. Sorry about final product. And by final product of the day, here it is, mid-October in Florida, and by December I'll be wondering if I should prune it because it's so tall that it's blowing around out there in the winter winds and everything, but